Jess.
And Shell.
Welcome to Real Talk Tuesdays with Jess and Shell, where we talk voiceover.
And some other things.
Thanks for watching.
So Jessica has a fly, and I'm wearing.
Well, we're about to get on with Mike Lenz and talk with him about audiobooks. And I'm
Yes.
sitting here in this
The fly on the wall wants to hear what Mike Lenz has to say.
Well, hey, we're talking with Mike Lenz. He started off not in voiceover. What was he doing before that? So we're going to hear his story. He's also an audiobook narrator, and he's done lots of them, and he's fantastic at it. So I'm excited to talk to Mike today about all of his tips and tricks and how he got started into voice acting.
Yeah,
so,
and we're going to let him in the room right now, but he's not going to be.
He doesn't know about the hair.
Here we go. Let's see what happens.
Hello, Mike.
How are you? How you guys doing?
Welcome. We're good. This is Michelle. Michelle, this is Mike.
I'm going to take this off, but I had to leave it on just as we introed you because
yeah, I know I was perfectly calm, even though I didn't notice it.
Like how? That's
the headphones don't fit over, so I can't hear you. So I'm going to take it off. But I wanted to. Sometimes I surprise Jess by like just coming in, like, and she doesn't know what she's going to get. And I left her a message last night that I got a really unflattering haircut, and I was a little nervous to be on video today. So I showed up like. So.
I was like, so do you have a haircut under that?
Yeah, I don't know what the hair is going to look like under.
I'm not even sure.
We just figured we'd show you as well.
I'm not sure I should ask where that came from.
There it is.
Lovely.
Welcome. She found it on
Thank
Shark
you so
Tank.
much for coming.
I saw it on Shark Tank.
I did.
Oh,
I got
really? Excellent. So it's good to see you both.
Yay.
You too, Mike. It's been a while since we've chatted.
I know. So you loving the podcast world? Like, what are you thinking? You liking it?
We're having fun.
I don't know if anybody else is liking it, but we're having fun.
Exactly.
I enjoyed the one. I watched the one about behind the scenes with you two. That was really cute.
Oh, fun.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Well, if you did a behind the scenes, you would have your chickens.
I would.
Would be on there.
Yes, absolutely.
And aren't you like the mayor of Puppet Land or something?
Yes, Puppet Land. That's it.
The mayor of Puppet Land.
I wish.
I was explaining to her just a little bit about what I knew about your story, but why don't we share with our viewers and listeners a little bit more about Mike Lenz and how you started into voice acting?
Yeah, it started a while ago. I was a pharmacist for almost 30 years, and what Michelle was referring to, not Puppet Land, but I was the mayor of Saratoga Springs, which is my hometown, was the mayor and also finance commissioner. So I served for about, I think, 8 years total.
Oh, wow.
And so that was kind of a neat experience. But I ended up losing one of my reelection bids, which completely changed the trajectory of my life. So for the good, because I had really kind of burned myself out of politics. My wife and I have 4 children, so we were in the process of having kids and building our home, and I was still running a pharmacy, and it was just so much pressure that I didn't realize until I got out that, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was carrying all that on my shoulders. And so I had a lot of time on my hands because I wasn't involved in politics any longer. And so I kind of let my little creative side bubble up. And, I had kind of kept it at bay for many years because I was a pharmacist and a mayor. And, you kind of, I always say that we typically are, there's 3 ways that we look at ourselves. There's the person that we think we are, there's the person that other people think we are, and then there's the person that we think other people think we are. And I hung out in number 3 for a long time thinking, okay, I can't really be creative because I have this persona of what people think I am. But I did start to explore it, and I started looking into and having some success with screenwriting on an amateur level. And I joined a local filmmakers group, and that led to me finding out about voice training. And I'm like, wait a minute. One of the things I loved about being mayor was using my voice to communicate. And I didn't want to run for office again. And I'm thinking I could do this and I could get paid to do it. And I'm going to check it out. And then as soon as I took my first lesson, probably like both of you, I was hooked. And I'm like, I want to do this. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I know that I want to do this. And, my faith teaches me that our job is to figure out the how, and we figure out the what, God figures out the how. And so over the course of the next 10 years, I just did it in the margins and tried to build my business as much as I could. And it really started to take off. I started to build clients. I started booking audiobook work. And I got to the point about 7 years ago where I couldn't do any more on the margins. So I made the decision to sell my pharmacy. We sold our building, and I moved into VO full time about 5.5 years ago. And it's been absolutely wonderful doing this for a living. I mean, I can't believe I pinch myself that
Yeah.
looking back 10, 15 years ago, to think that I would be sitting here with you talking about how I've been doing this full time for 5 years just blows my mind. But
Yeah.
again, it's been an amazing journey.
I love how things translate, like all of our like backgrounds translate, like so many backgrounds can translate into doing voiceover, right? It's such a unique, interesting career, right? That, yeah, like you
All
said, you pinch yourself, like I get to do this. Like how blessed are we, right?
I know, and everybody that comes from different places, and I always tell people when they say, "Well, where should I get work or how can I get work?" I always ask them, "Well, what do you do outside of voiceover?"
Yeah.
And think about that area, because that's where you can probably find work. I was actually, before we came on the session, I was on the wrong Zoom link. So I'm like, I wonder where they are. And what I realized was I was on the Zoom link from a directed session that I had to do yesterday
Oh,
for
hilarious.
an ISI for a pharmaceutical company. Because guess what? I've been a pharmacist for 30 years, so I can do the medical terminology. So I get hired to do some of that work. And so whatever industry you're in, figure out how you can utilize those contacts to get work within that industry. Just
And
makes
those
sense.
skills, like you said, medical narration is no joke. Like that's tough. And to
Yeah.
have some of that knowledge makes it so much easier for someone like you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Yep, it does.
you know how to say the words. They just roll off your tongue
Mm.
instead of someone like me who I
Yes.
Yeah.
nope, I
Yeah.
don't know
I
how
mean,
to.
Nope.
it can be a struggle if you're not used to it. I mean, there's words that I'm just so accustomed to hearing because I heard them for so long
Yeah.
Right.
that you wouldn't hear if you weren't
Yeah,
in the pharmacy industry. So, yeah, it does come in handy certainly for medical narration, no
for
question.
sure.
Well, Mike,
You,
let's jump into a little bit more of like the nuts and bolts of audiobooks. I
Mhm.
know a lot of our listeners and viewers are interested in doing this specific genre of audiobooks. And for me, I know we've talked a lot about this before. I just don't know that I have the patience with my ADHD brain,
Yeah.
to be able to do that. Can you tell us a little bit about like the workflow
hmm
that you use and how you actually pull this off?
Yeah,
God bless you.
long form's not
Right.
for everybody, and I don't blame anybody that says what you just said. Like, if you can do it, you can do it. If you can't, you can. It isn't for everybody. And my narration coach told me once. He said before he would coach anybody, he tells them to go to the library and get a book out, and any book, just kind of randomly pick a book, go home, go into a room and read that book out loud for 2 hours a day, and do that for
Wow.
2 weeks. He goes, if you're not banging your head against the wall, then I'll coach you.
I'm banging my head.
Because
Wow. I
yeah,
would be banging my
because
head against the
it's not
wall.
for everybody. I mean,
No.
I knew from the very beginning when I first got involved in voiceover that I wanted to do audiobooks. That's really what kind of drew me into the VO world. I love to read, so I'm like, this would be so much fun to be able to do this. So you do have to have the right mindset for it, but and you do have to be disciplined because at this point in my career where I do a lot of audiobook work, I have two whiteboards because I'm usually booked out 2 months in advance. So I have to know each day what I'm doing and when those books are due. And I have a spreadsheet that I keep, that's a master spreadsheet that tells me who the publisher is, what the title is, how many hours it is, what the PFH is on it, when I start recording, when I finish recording, when I deliver the files, when I do the pickups, when I invoice them, when I get paid. And so it's a master spreadsheet. And then the whiteboard helps me to know what I'm doing. So when I come down to the studio, I can just look at my calendar on my whiteboard and know what title or titles I'm narrating that day and when they're due. So it does take some discipline, but in the beginning, I wasn't doing as many books, so I didn't have to have that kind of evolved. But in the beginning, it started at acx.com, which is where a lot of
Yeah.
people go. Pretty much everybody that I know starts on acx.com. And that's a place where you can bring together rights holders and narrators / producers to come together and join forces to where you can go audition and hopefully get hired to do books. And they have all kinds of filters on there, so you can filter out what kind of genres you want, how many hours it is, how much it pays. So it's a great place to start. I started with royalty share. For my first 5 books were royalty share, which means you don't get paid until the book sells. And then over time, I was able to develop a body of work that allowed me to get in with certain publishers. So the vast majority of my day is spent narrating only, and the publishers handle the editing and the proofing,
I was
which
going
is
to ask you
wonderful.
that, the editing piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important to learn how to edit and to know how to edit. And ACX gives you the guidelines in terms of the tech stuff that you have to know. But it's daunting at the beginning
Mm.
because you don't know what you don't know. I worked with an editor privately who partnered with me on the first 5 audiobooks and then eventually taught myself how to do it. But now Jeffrey Kafer, who's a very accomplished voice audiobook narrator, was a guest on my podcast, and he told me, your job as a narrator is to narrate audiobooks. Because if you calculate out the amount of time it takes you to edit an audiobook, it's about a 6-to-1 ratio.
Mhm.
So a 5-hour book's going to take you 30 hours.
Yes.
He said, you need to finish that book. It might take you, you know, 8 hours to narrate it. But then while somebody else is editing, people that are very good at editing and proofing are doing their job, you're back auditioning or recording your next book. He goes, and when you factor that all into your hourly rate of your time, it's much more cost effective for you to just narrate. And I didn't believe that in the beginning because I'm like, no, I want to, if I edit, I get to keep all the money. And I didn't realize that it's all about getting the next book and getting the next book.
That makes
So
sense.
I work with private editors now and proofers who work with me on the books that aren't through publishers, that are through indie authors and through ACX or Findaway or some of the other places where people can get their books produced. But the vast majority of the work that I do, thankfully now, is with producers and publishers, and they have their own crew of editors and proofers who are amazing that handle all that. And then I'm just responsible for doing the pickups, which is correcting the mistakes that they find.
You just went to the next level of your business and of your career, right? And that was a little scary, jumping to
Mm.
the next
It
level.
was, it was. And I remember in the beginning, my first book I did was a 13-hour royalty share book that I had no idea what I was doing. The answer is yes. What's the question? So I got the book and I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And then I'm like panicked. Like, how am I going to do this? And fortunately, I figured it out. And most audiobook narrators have that first title scary story that
Yeah.
they can share with you. But it's just like anything, right? You guys all remember when you started in VO, we're kind of like, you're just sort of feeling your way and you're not
Hmm.
exactly sure what to do. And then, as your career evolves and you get better at what you do and you figure it out, and you at least I do keep implementing systems that make it more and more efficient so that I can do all the work that I need to do because I do other work besides audiobooks because I do commercial work, I do e-learning, I do corporate video work, and I do podcast producing. So I have to keep a lot of things um, in like in order to get
Yeah.
everything done that I need to get done. But uh, but
So
audiobooks is a
what
big part.
what programs do you or software do you use to stay organized?
Yeah, I'm old school. I just use Google spreadsheets. I
Okay.
don't have any. I don't even have CRMs.
Me neither.
Nothing. I I hear people talk about them all the time,
Yeah.
but I have a running to-do list of all the things that I have to do, and as soon as the page is done, flip it over to the next page and keep adding to it. And good old-fashioned Google Sheets just keeps me sane because I don't have to worry about it. And then each book, just to get really technical, each book has its own spreadsheet so that and each chapter is color coded on the spreadsheet so that I know how many chapters. So if I know I have 6 days to do a book that's 200 pages long, I can break that out. I can just divide 200 by 6. I know how many pages I have to get done a day, and then they're color coded. And then I have columns so that I know when I record it, when I've saved it as a WAV file, when I saved it to my hard drive, how much time I actually finished hours I recorded. And that way I can keep track each day of how many hours I've done and then what that equates to in terms of billable hours. And I can look back each day, each week and say, okay, I did 12 hours this week and it equated to X number of dollars billable. And so if I get called away, we have 4 children. So if I get called away, I can go back to that spreadsheet and go, okay, wait a minute, did I save that as a WAV file yet? Did I save it to my hard drive? That way, again, it just clears my mind. So I'm not carrying it all up here. If I can get it down on a spreadsheet or on a whiteboard, then I don't have to, burden my brain with having to carry that with me all the time, which really helps. Have either of you done audiobooks? Tried audiobooks?
I'm like an under 2-minute girl.
Right. Give me a 30-second spot. I'll knock it out.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not complaining. I love to do those too. I'm happy to do those, but
Yeah.
have you either one of you tried them?
E-learning. I think e-learning is probably the closest I've been to an audiobook. And that was a huge, huge, huge 2-year project,
Oh, wow.
and so many modules. So I guess if you were to put all those modules into place, it probably would have been a couple audiobooks.
I believe that. Yeah. I mean, I think e-learning probably is as close to audiobooks as you can get.
Yeah.
And like you said, depending on the length of the project.
And my challenge is staying focused and reading. And like I have probably, I would say, a 2-hour window where I'm really focused in the morning. I have my coffee, I can read. Whereas later in the day, like 2 o'clock, I'm like, I don't understand what I just read. I'm saying things wrong. I am messing up, and I just need to walk out that door and be done.
Yeah, no question. No
I
question.
might like I'm done. My brain is broken.
My brain is broken.
Done.
Yeah, I just happened to have narrated an audiobook recently about that, about the brain and how it functions and how you need to do the deep work early because your brain does get tired. It's literally a fact that your brain gets tired. So later in the day, you should do those more mundane things like sending out invoices,
laundry and dishes.
Yes.
And, well, I mean, like as a mom.
Anything related to your business that's more mundane, that doesn't require a lot of deep thought or concentration. That should be towards the end of the day.
Interesting.
And do your deep work in the morning when your brain is fresh. There's no question that that's the way to go. Have you guys done my family has me hooked on these New York Times like Wordles and mini crossword things.
I don't.
And I'm on Duolingo now. I'm on Duolingo learning French, right? Because just 'cause I got nothing else to do. So so they have these matching games where you have to match the English and the French, and you have to do it really quickly. I'll do that in the morning, and I'm just flying through it. And I tried to do it one time at night, like 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and at night, and I was just like duh, 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 and it really dawned on me. I'm like, wow, my brain is like just fried. Like you don't think about it really, but when I compared those two things, I realized, wow, it's true.
My husband's trying to learn a few languages, and he's teaching ESL too. And I just did a spot for Duolingo. So it's funny you mentioned them. I just did a commercial spot for Duolingo because they're like not in US. They're like based out of the US, if I recall. But anyway, did you find, so two things. Did you find it like that one's a good one to learn with? Like, cause I'm always trying to find ones for my husband to learn languages with. And then to back at your other question, I've voiced 3 children's books. The book that I published and wrote, my children's book, and then
that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And then 2 for Scholastic. Although I don't even know, that was years ago, and I don't even know if they ended up using it. I would be curious. I kind of remember the names of them. I've been trying to look them up. But so my question is on ACX, can you do like a children's book that would be short form kind of thing too? Do they have that as well?
Oh yeah, they have all these genres broken down by language and the type of book and the length. So yeah, you can do. I suspect I haven't been on there in a while, but there's probably a children's category, and I think they have 0 to 2 hours, or 2 to 3 hours, or 4 to 5 hours. So there's all these breakdown in terms of the length.
Okay.
So
good to know.
most of your children's books are going to be in that shorter length, but yeah, absolutely. There's super short books. So even if you have a low attention span, if you got that ADHD kicking in, there might be books there are books I know for a fact that are a couple hours long. So, that's like chickens. That's your gateway drug.
I was going to say, like for someone trying to dabble in, maybe they start with that or something. I don't know.
First you have chickens, and it's goats and cows.
Do you have goats?
No, I just need more land for that. But yeah, that's the plan anyway. I want to
do goat yoga.
I want to have pigs, goats, and cows and chickens. Then I'll be.
Where do you live?
Well, I can't do it where I am, so I have to find a different place to go.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
All we can have is chickens in the town where I live, in this district within the town.
Do the chickens not make noise that bothers your recording?
No, they're too far away, and this is all nicely treated. So No. If I left the door to the porch open, I probably could hear them.
Okay,
They're
interesting.
pretty loud. But we don't have it. We only have hens, no roosters, because we're not allowed to have roosters. So we just
Oh,
have girls that lay eggs, which is good.
that's awesome.
Mike, I know we could probably be on here for a couple hours asking you all sorts of questions, and you have such a fascinating story. And if anybody's listening, please listen to Mike's podcast. It's fantastic.
We'll put it in the notes, right? The
We'll put
link to it.
everything in the
Yeah,
note.
yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
But
sure.
Mike,
I
oh, go
I
ahead.
no, I was just gonna say that I just interviewed Tom Deere, who is a good friend and a fellow VO veteran, and we talked about AI, and he had some really interesting thoughts.
Oh,
So AI is
Oh,
a whole
good.
nother thing that you guys will
mm-hmm.
probably be talking
We'll
about
be
Oh,
on the
we've been
touching.
podcast
talking
if you haven't
about
already.
Yeah, yeah.
But he had some really interesting thoughts, and we really kicked it around a lot. So that episode's going to be, I think, worthwhile for a lot of people to listen to. So
Is that out yet or is not?
yep,
It's
yep, just
oh, it's
launched on
oh,
Monday.
cool.
So
All right.
Oh, good. I want to share that because I'm
Yeah,
very
for sure.
curious
I will share it
how
as
that's
well.
all going to pan out. And
Yay.
I know there'll be
Yeah.
certain work that will go away for
Mm-hmm.
voiceovers, but a lot of that is probably going to be the lower paying jobs anyway. So that segment is probably going to be affected. That's what Tom had mentioned, and the people that are really good at what we do are probably going to be okay. And so the takeaway is get really good at what you do. So that just
Yeah.
get better all the
Yeah.
time at what we're doing.
yeah, that's definitely. And we've been doing this for what, 10, 30 years, 40 years among
Yeah,
all of us.
I
And we're
know.
still learning, right?
Yep.
I could
Every day.
still name things. I'm like, I really want to work on this. I want to get better at this. I want to
Yep.
make sure my clients are really taken care of. And how can I do that in this world right now?
And learning from people like you is like such a cool thing with this podcast we're doing, because it's like we get to like talk to people and like really get other insights of, because Jess and I do short form. We don't do that, we don't have that knowledge. So it's such a gift to have you on. So we really appreciate
Thank
you.
you. I
Thank you
know,
so
and I love
much.
seeing you both. It was such a joy.
Yay.
Good.
Thanks for
Thanks again,
coming.
Mike.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Sure.